This time on Movie Reviews, we're going to be looking at the new film, It Chapter 2. It Chapter 2 was directed by Muschietti and stars James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, Bill Skarsgård, and the Old Spice guy. Taking place 27 years after the events of the first film, the Losers Club have grown up and have gone their separate ways, but soon things start stirring around in Derry once again as Mike brings the group all together and they reunite to finally defeat and destroy Pennywise the Clown forever. Guys, this was a highly anticipated film for me. I absolutely love the first film. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's really enjoyable. Had great character moments, had great cinematography, great direction, great just production design, and was overall just a solid film that had some flaws along the way. But I was still really just looking forward to this film, and watching this film, it has a lot of the shortcomings of that film, but also a lot of its strengths. As we usually do on this channel, let's start with the positives. The biggest positive I can say with this film, without a doubt, is its acting and its cast in particular. In fact, let's talk about the cast for a second. I have never seen a movie so perfectly cast their characters in a way that this movie does. These actors, the adult actors that play the Losers Club, look exactly like the adult versions of what the Losers Club would look like. They look like the little kids in the original first movie, and I think that was just so perfect. It just made it feel so real. It felt like I was actually watching these kids all grown up, and that's also a testament to the actors themselves that play them, as well as the direction and the writing. They really do a great job of making these actors, these characters, feel like the characters from the first movie. Yes, they've aged quite a lot, but they still feel integral. They still feel like the same people again, and that was really great returning, because it was like I wasn't trying to get used to a new actor playing one of these characters. I was basically just watching the characters come back to life, basically, and being in this sequel, which was really cool. Standouts in the film are, of course, James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, as well as even the Old Spice guy. He's pretty good too. All the actors do a great job and really fit into their roles and really feel like those characters, and it was just so great. Now, I will say that some of the actors don't always get their due, such as the character that plays Ben really doesn't have that much to do in this film. In fact, he doesn't have that much in the way of lines, really, and he's kind of the most that's sort of removed from the original character, but it's a small little complaint with that character. But the best one by far is Bill Hader, who just plays Richie Tozer so perfectly. He is the standout in this film, and the thing that people will be talking about after watching this film, like, all the other actors do an excellent job, but Bill Hader, I mean, I've always been a fan of Bill Hader. He's a really funny comedian. He's really good and really just a lot of fun. But here, on top of just being funny, which there are plenty of jokes that he does, which in fact make him a little better than I think Finn Wolfhard was in the original first film. I thought he did a better version of this character than Finn did, which was really cool. But he really brings the dramatic weight to this movie, and they do some interesting things with his character, and Bill Hader, being such a good actor, really sells these scenes and is so good in this film. He is he's perfect casting here, and he's the best thing in this film by far. And of course, another great thing in this film is Bill Skarsgård. Now, I know there's some people that just aren't a big fan of his version of Pennywise, and even though, like, I'm not the biggest fan of it either, I think Bill Skarsgård still just does such a good job. He's so fun to watch. He's just so fun being evil. It's just great watching him chewing the scenery, just that smile he does, that look he gives. Bill Skarsgård can look really creepy, and he's just a lot of fun in the movie. On top of our actors, we also have top-notch cinematography, which looks absolutely fantastic. I think both these films just look absolutely beautiful, and sometimes even look like I'm looking at a painting, and it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at times. But also, I do want to mention that I really love just the set design with some of the sets in this movie, the look of the film. Just, it looks so cool, especially with visuals at the very end of the film during the third act, which is really just, that part hits home for me. The third act of this film is absolutely just a blast to watch, and that was something about this film. It was just really entertaining from beginning to end, and I was constantly just having a lot of fun. I thought the movie handled its horror elements, which are very few. I don't think this film is particularly scary. Now, that could be seen as a complaint for some people, but if this film can win me over with its acting, its performances, and everything else, then the horror elements aren't really a bother for me. I just thought this film was really, really entertaining. I also love the scope of this film. This is a huge film, and a lot of that is brought through with the fact that this movie's almost 3 hours, which for some people, that won't be a thing for them, but I thought it was perfect. Thought, like, just the fact that this was such a big, gigantic movie was incredible for me. Really, it goes through different time periods. We see the past losers, we see the present day losers, and it really is a huge ensemble film, which is really, really cool, and I was glad to see it, even though sometimes it just didn't work or flow like it should have. And now I'm going to get into some of my complaints with the film. Now, some people, as I mentioned, will not really gravitate towards the extreme long runtime of this film, and this movie is very long. It is almost 3 hours, but this just might be me because I grew up watching 3.5 hour movies as a kid. The running time never really bothered me. But watching the film, I can understand why it will bother some people. And I do understand that the length of the film really does put a damper on some of the pacing of the film. Even though I didn't have quite a problem with it, I was still entertained through the film. I do have to say that the pacing for the film is rather strange. The film really has us going from character to character to character in just sequential fashion, and it really does put a damper on the pacing, really, because we'll be following one character throughout Derry, and they'll have a scare, and then we'll go to another character, and we have just another little vignette. It's like the movie is filled with these little vignettes, these little short films within the full narrative of the story, and sometimes that might put a damper on the pacing, and I completely understand this complaint with the film. It didn't bother me too much, but it is there. Also, a problem with this film is the use of flashbacks. Now, flashbacks in a film can really be a handy tool, and sometimes they really can bring in some new insight. And for a couple of instances in the film, there are some really good flashback scenes where we are reintroduced to our characters from the first film at a younger age, and it is really cool, and it is really nice to see these young kids working again, and it's really fun, but for the most part, it doesn't really add anything too new to the narrative that wasn't already present, and just certain things that we really didn't need. And I think a lot of the reason it's here is because, well, one of the biggest positives of the first film was those kid actors, and of course they probably wanted to use them again, and they also kind of make up an excuse in the film to kind of reuse them, the fact that they're returning to Derry and they've forgotten some things, so there's like scenes that are taking place that they've forgotten, which it's kind of lazy, but it is nice seeing these actors playing these roles again, but it doesn't always work, and really, if you cut out these scenes, you would have a very shortened runtime, and this film might flow a lot better for some. Also, there's a little bit of a problem that I have with the film with a particular character, and it's a particular character that I absolutely love in this film. If you've seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into detail here about it because I think that's kind of a spoiler, and I don't want to go into spoilers in this review. But there is a particular character in the film that is revealed to be gay. And I don't have a problem with this. I think it's honestly really interesting and a really interesting direction to put that character. However, the character was in the first film and they didn't set up any of this, and it just feels kind of random, like they didn't think of it while making the first film, but they thought about it in the second film. And so the reveal just doesn't feel earned and it feels out of place. But the actor involved in this situation does an excellent job with the material he's given. It's just that reveal just feels rather lazy and just a bit too late, being really in the second half of the second film of this two-part saga. Also, I thought this movie's opening sequence really did fail. The first movie opened so perfectly with a great recreation of the famous drain scene in the original It, and it worked so well in that film. Here we have something a little bit different, and there's no real emotional weight. We're just watching somebody get killed by Pennywise that we don't have really any attachment to, and it just didn't work for me and really wasn't a great introduction to this film overall. And even though this film does have its faults, it is still a very entertaining film that isn't always scary, but is always just a fun time with great actors, great characters, just an interesting world, beautiful cinematography, and just great directing overall. And at the end of the film, when it was finally over and the credits rolled, I left the movie satisfied, which is what I want in a film like this. I'm going to give It Chapter 2 a 7 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Have you seen It Chapter 2? What did you think about it? And what did you think of the first It movie? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you just absolutely hate it? Tell me in the comments section below. But as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next review.